Early November has been a good time for GT3 sim racing, with Automobilista 2 joining the very competitive market, which includes Assetto Corsa Competizione and of course Rfactor 2. I took the opportunity of testing the McLaren 720S GT3 at the new Kyle Army, which is a track very, very close to my heart, with a lot of history. As you can see, the Kyle Army Grand Prix circuit, it's a flipped layout from the old track, and immediately got into it. Half an hour practice in the car, then did some qualifying. I don't know, qualified really bad, 18th, 19th, with the AI at 92 or 93, I'm not sure, I don't remember. Again, a dive bomb, typical dive bomb you can only do in sim racing against AI. And you can see the shadows. I had to push them down quite a lot because I wasn't getting the right frame rate. I need at least 60 for it to look smooth, and it just wasn't looking smooth. So, but anyway, I gave it the best shot, and it was smooth in car. So it's a bit jagged in the replays, but that's something I have to do to check my system and maybe correct it. It's not a game I'm very familiar with. But again, the physics are very believable. The AI are believable. The racing's believable. The immersion is immense. The cars feel good. They do the kind of things you want them to do. I would say it ticks all the boxes at almost like 95, 96% of what you want in a sim, whereas the others are less consistent across the board. So across the board, I would say graphics, the interface, the amount of choice, the online, everything. I understand why Assetto Corsa Competizione is so good, especially the driving experience. I felt driving the McLaren was really a pleasure. There were times when you get that sim racing, let's call it glitch, when you've lost the car on a slow bend and you know that in real life the weight and the traction should grab it, but it doesn't. It just does a pirouette. That happened to me a few times, especially when the tires got hot. And this is one of the things that I was warned by Jardier, that by looking at one of his videos, his videos are really informative. I feel like I know the guy. The reality is you've got to be careful with the tires. There's a lot of tire management here, something I'm probably not used to in sims, although Rfactor 2, supposedly the tires are the business too, and I can manage them there. But on Assetto Competizione, I think you need a bit more finesse. I kept on hitting that curb. I don't know, I thought I was missing it, but I kept on hitting it. In fact, in the end, it undid me a few times. But yeah, I was immersed. I mean, this was a good race. I wasn't making much progress, and I was starting to actually feel the guys behind me. And honestly, I did feel that I was losing something, and I thought my driving. Then I realized, no, it's definitely the tires. I didn't have the tire temperatures up because I don't want to confuse myself. I'm still sort of learning this sim. I think it's a sim, if you embrace the sim, you will love it and you will learn it, and it's the kind of sim that probably is worth the kind of time, especially as it's growing as an online, reputable online sort of competition base. And there you go, that's the mistake I made. Hit that curb once too often, got it sideways, and again, I think my tires were done by this time, totally shot. So yeah, all I can say is that it on that level was very realistic. But for me, trying to enjoy the sim, like over a 10-minute race, obviously I overcooked the tires and I was paying the price. As you can see there, I think I got a little tap. I'm not sure. Didn't go to the replay, but I was driving so badly at that point. And that was it. I mean, it was a super experience. Fully understand why guys gravitate to the sim. In terms of physics, car driving, yeah, it ticks the boxes. I mean, you just can't deny it. It's GTR2 on steroids. It's beautiful. These GT3 cars just sound amazing, as you can hear, and totally taken by this. Now it was time to get into the Rfactor 2 version of this car. Rfactor 2 is my go-to sim. I'm going to be very honest. I know it very well. I have lots of hours on it. It's the kind of sim that when I'm having a bad day, I switch it on, do a few laps, and I get happy. And there we go. We had a race. New Kyle Army available on Steam, free. It's a fantastic. All the guys that are involved in that track, amazing. 3 into 1, nice. Again, AI are absolutely awesome in Rfactor 2. They're better than humans actually, and even make mistakes too, like humans, as you can see. Bit of mayhem there on the first lap, but all really realistic. It's not like cars bouncing into the air and stuff. You know, a guy made a mistake, he lost it behind him, took a whole bunch with him. So I found myself in the leading pack early on. McLaren in front of me, the AI. So like I said, it feels so good, this sim. You know, you can drive the curbs. I would say Automobilista 2 has the edge over the curbs, but if the Automobilista curbs are like 100%, these are like 98, 99. They're really, really good. Again, the AI making mistakes, which is very realistic, especially early on in a race. You see this often in real racing. You know, mistakes, funny lines, as you can see. It's very believable. I mean, when you drive AI in this rFactor 2 game, especially if you've got the right mods, and this is plug and play, basically running the AI at 100 and probably 25 aggression. Be careful with the aggression with these guys because they get very, very aggressive. But yeah, you know, driving the McLaren, it's not a car I'm used to, but because I was testing in the other sims, I made myself get used to it. And I must say, it was planted, it felt solid. Of all the cars, it felt the most solid. It felt, I've been in a McLaren, not this particular one, but McLaren race cars tend to be like they're maybe muffled, they're very comfortable. They, you know, they road cars have become race cars. So, no surprise there that this car is muffled and it feels very cozy driving it. Again, on the brakes, side by side with these guys, really rubbing paint, giving them some space, and of course gets ahead. But I can keep the inside line here, which is nice, and the guy respects that. And the other guy comes past too, and look how he gets it all sideways but saves it. Lovely, you know, just lovely. And the dust kicking up as they come out of the corners, it's just beautiful. I mean, you know, the driving sensation, the immersion, to me it's the pinnacle of virtual driving. You know, I've seldom driven such good cars. In 20 years of simming, I can just say that this is one of, not the specific car, just the whole physics of rFactor 2. Let's not get into the user interface and all that, and me missing the apex is big time. Again, struggling a bit with the brakes, which is a thing that I did struggle with all these cars, which is super interesting. The other thing that I think is worth mentioning, oh, jeez, okay, that was my race. But anyway, one of the things that's worth mentioning is that these tracks, all three tracks were very, very accurate. Even there's a little piece of paint just before the S's that's like a brake marker area, and all the tracks, all three that I used on the three different sims had that piece of paint there, which I find quite amazing. There we go. So I recovered and got back into it, started chasing some guys, and you always feel you're in a race here with rFactor 2. It's not the AI are not processional. They will chase you, they will attack. Just absolutely bang for buck. This is an amazing experience. On the other side though, it's got the most awful user interface in the whole of sim racing. It's a nightmare to do races. It's a nightmare interface. It's not user friendly whatsoever. No intuition. When you have to be a rocket scientist just to launch a server, let alone build mod packs and all this stuff. AI, he just lost it. Under pressure, the AI just loses it, which I find good. And then of course me under no pressure, just losing it, putting it in the wall. My own mistake, you know, I just didn't do the corner right, and I was talking to myself, I guess, and boom, again the curb caught me out there. Normally I can hit that curb, but maybe because I was coming off the gas, it put me in the wall. But super experience, you know, that's all I can say. Super experience. Now I was really looking forward to Automobilista 2, the McLaren 720S GT3. Again, I'd driven the other two. I'd driven this car before, and this is another movie I made. I'd learnt a bit about the car. I was very struggling really with the brakes. Never owned the brakes, to be honest with you, and off we went. Started the race. I decided to start from the back of the pack and did one of those banzai moves that you can only do against AI, and suddenly found myself in mid-pack. But yeah, quite feisty, I must say. Maybe too feisty. I think that guy, for instance, would have got a black flag for that, and he does some crazy shit later on. But yeah, you feel the mayhem of a first lap. So I found myself in the pack, and the car was handling really good. I played around with the brake bias, because I was really struggling with the brakes. Again, the AI, very realistic in terms of once they spread out. In the pack, I just found it was a bit too wild, but I was grooving on the McLaren. It really felt good. I thought I had the brakes sorted. This was the big moment to check. Yeah, it was pretty stable on the brakes. We rubbed some paint there. So again, AI, you know, pretty decent, I would say, and just nice. It had a really racy feeling, even if you look at the, you know, it looks like a proper race, you know, and you feel it. And you're coming up 4 or 5 cars battling early on for a spot. So in terms of immersion, you're fully immersed, you're fully driving, you're in the race. Thank you, Zach Browns. Thank you very much. This McLaren you gave me just had horses. Look at that. It just went past those 2 Porsches, made this Merc look like Toto Wolff's Merc. And thank you, Zach Brown. That was an amazing, amazing car you've given me here. Excellent, excellent. Curb hopping. Okay, I'm just going to go on about curbs on this sim. This is the best curb experience I've ever had with GT3s in all cars. I mean, this absolutely is, yeah, all I can say is 100. If anything, it's still in a very, I would say, kind of a beta stage, these cars. I think they're still probably version 8, because the AI, you know, they're just quite not there in terms of, how can I say, they defend in that, but they don't really attack. So maybe I've got to jack up the aggression some more. It's already on 70, which is very different to Rfactor 2, because you've got to keep those down to like 20, 22, 25 maximum. I was braking like I normally braked, and it just went away from me. So that was after 4 or 5 laps. The car just went diabolically bad after 4 or 5 laps. Okay, I get it. Tires, but I wasn't overdriving it. The brakes were the big problem. If you watch the replay, it just locks up. It just turns on me, and I don't know why, because I hadn't fiddled with the bias or anything, and I hit that braking point lap after lap. Again, you'll see here, hit the braking point like I normally do, and the thing just went away from me. Boom. So I've got work to do. I've got work to do on this sim, because I didn't quite grab it. I drove it twice, but I feel it. I do feel it, especially the curbs. I would say it's a bit raw, but it's nearly there. And for their first effort, 3 GT3 cars like this, I think they've done a fantastic job, and they've definitely raised the bar in certain elements, which is really exciting. So 3 cars, same track, same cars, different titles, and I must say I was impressed with all of them. They've all got huge strengths. I think Assetto Corsa Competizione might tick most of the boxes at the highest level, the very highest sim. You've got a fantastic interface. Yes, let's give it the best interface for sure. Variety of cars, official cars, liveries, etc. I just wish I could drive with my name when I'm racing AI and not some other guy's name. Maybe you can, I'm not sure you can, but overall a fantastic experience. So the big question, which is best? Honestly, I can't say. For me, Rfactor 2 physics, Automobilista 2 curb handling is amazing. Assetto Competizione, just a polished product, you know, ticks boxes at the very, very highest level. Beautiful sim, fantastic user interface. So what's the ideal sim? I think it's a combination of these 3. I would go with the Automobilista 2 curb hopping, I'd go with the Rfactor 2 physics, and I'd go with the Assetto Competizione user interface and the beautiful cars and the license and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, what's missing is the iRacing style community of licensing and all that amazing stuff that iRacing does. No one does it better than them, the licensing, etc. Okay, we'll argue about all the other stuff later, but the reality is, in terms of online racing, iRacing is king, and that's where these sims have to go. They've got everything else going for them, but there's no online ecosystem that can sustain them. But again, all I can say is all 3 sims tick a lot of very good boxes, and it'll have to come to a personal choice for whatever you buy or whatever you decide to drive. Not sure this helps you make a decision. I'm sticking to Rfactor 2 for now, but I will definitely be driving these games a lot more and exploring the online possibilities and leagues. But the reality is, it's your choice, whatever suits you, your driving style, etc., etc. But they are 3 great sims. Thank you for watching, and if you dig it, give us a subscribe.